Okay, looks like we are live. Just give it another minute. We have two of our friends at the studio with us today. I went to leave today and I was held hostage at the front door. They refused to let me through because they're on to where I go and they want to come with. So we'll see how it goes. Sometimes the two of them together can work each other up. So today is a bit of an experiment. We'll see. Right now, one is with my son and one is right here. So we'll see if she stays with us and behaves. There's a lot of noise downstairs at the rock climbing, so there's a good chance they'll get up and get a little hyper and we might have to get them out of the studio. So today is yoga for strength. If you have yoga blocks, grab them, or something that you can use in place of a yoga block. Make it kind of sturdy because we're going to be putting a little weight on it. So you want to have it a little sturdy, not soft and something that you're going to push into. So we're going to start in a seat today. Coming up to a seat, comfortable seat, whatever that is. If you're sitting cross-legged because that's comfortable for you, go ahead and use that. If you prefer to sit with a cushion or a block, maybe a block underneath the hips so that you can sit up on your knees. Find the position that's a little more comfortable for you. And we're going to just start to ground down, land in this space. So I invite you to bring your hands, palms down on your thighs, in your lap. Make sure your shoulders are soft, your face is soft. And start to get really long in the spine. So as if you could check in one vertebrae at a time, just kind of addressing the spine, addressing any holding patterns in the back and in the shoulders and neck. And just starting to get a little longer with each breath. Starting to turn your focus inward. What's going on physically? What's going on emotionally? What's going on mentally? Starting our practice with a little self-inquiry, getting to know ourselves, knowing how we feel and think. And then start to connect with the warmth of your hands on your lap. Perhaps imagining the warmth of your hands is going straight through your legs to the ground. Sending your energy to connect with the ground below you. And perhaps bring your eyes closed for a few breaths, really turning the focus inside, internal, letting go of what has come before this moment and what is yet to come. And just landing in the here and now. And then we'll begin to move and breathe. So inhale, lift arms up, zombie arms, nice and soft. Exhale, sweep the arms back down. Inhale, lift. And exhale, sweep back down. Connecting with some breath, movement, meditation, maybe even keeping your eyes closed. And just noticing how your body feels as it begins to connect with the breath. Bring your hands back down to your lap and take the sternum in spiral circles. So thinking about a circle with the chest, little soft circles. Just waking up the spine. Making up the torso, finding some muscles in the torso, and then reverse your circle. And bring the torso back to neutral. Get really, really, really long through the neck. And then bring the chin all the way down to the chest. Connect with the back of the neck. Bring the chin all the way up to the ceiling and connect with the front of the neck. Back to neutral, ear to shoulder. Really connecting with the opposite side. An invitation to take the hand on the side that you're experiencing the stretch behind your back. And just press your hand a little. There we go, we lost our friend. Press your hand a little into the back just to connect with a little more muscle engagement. And bring it back to neutral. Let the arm go. From the other ear to the other shoulder. And take the hand behind the back. Bring the head back to neutral. Take the chin and turn it to a shoulder. And then lift the chin, look the eyes up towards the ceiling, stretching the eyes. Bring the chin back to neutral, and then turn the other side. Lift the chin a little, look up, stretch the eyes as far as they can look. And bring the head and chin back to neutral. Come on over to a tabletop position. And begin to move and breathe in a tabletop position. Inhaling in tabletop, exhaling, sending the hips backwards. And really starting to tune in, have an internal experience. Inhale forward, exhale backwards. Not worrying about shape, but moving around and feeling your body beginning to arrive fully on the mat in this moment, in this body. Finding your breath. And then come all the way through tabletop down to crocodile pose. So down to your stomach, one hand on top of another, forehead down. Shimmy the hips and land on the mat. What can you let go of? And then connecting with the legs. We're going to engage the right leg strong and then lift and hover the right leg and pay attention to any compensation patterns. So notice if the low back is fired up, just try to keep it from the glute down to the heel. So engage the leg, lift and hold. And then bend the knee, send the heel to the ceiling, lifting and holding, engaging more muscles in the leg. Lift and hold. Little tiny pulses of the heel up to the ceiling. So watching for compensation patterns. Soften the neck, soften the face, soften the low back. Maybe even a little push of the left hip into the ground to keep your hips stable and the movement below the hips. And then lifting the knee, hovering the knee, pointing the toe. Take a little circle with this lower leg. Little soft, slow circle. Engaged muscle. Reverse your circle. Lower the legs, shimmy the hips, and notice left and right sides. Lift and hover the left leg and notice which muscles fire up to make this happen. Fire up the leg, turn off the back, push the right hip a little into the ground, soften the face and neck, hold and hover. And then bend the knee, send the heel towards the ceiling and little small tiny pulses, lifting the knee up, sending the heel to the ceiling, engaging the entire leg and trying to watch for compensation patterns in the back. Lift and hover the knee, point the toe, and then take your leg circles. And then reverse your circles. And then lower the legs, shimmy the hips. And notice left and right sides again. And then we'll begin to work all of the muscles of the back line. So bring your hands just for balance wherever they're comfortable. And we're going to begin to lift the shoulders. Inhale as we lift. Exhale as we lower. Thinking about lifting the shoulders, not the head. And as we lift, thinking about getting long from the heels to the crown of the head. Rather than getting a big arch, we're thinking about making space for the spine, getting longer, 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 and getting longer in the muscles of the back. Even in the muscles of the back, trying to use the low back, the mid back, the glutes, the legs, all evenly. And then maybe begin to fly the arms up, arms out, or elbows bent. Maybe even lifting the toes. Wherever level you're at, lift and hover. So try not to come too high. Lift and hover about your midpoint. Get long through the spine as if you're pushing energy out through the crown of the head. Hold and hover. And we're going to take little soft, controlled, and slow turns. So taking one elbow at a time, even if your hands are down, towards the hip. Slow and soft. Back to center, exhale towards the hip. Inhale back to center, exhale towards the hip. Controlled movement. This can be done with the hands down. This can be done with the feet down. You can lift the arms. Connecting with the muscles that make this movement happen. And then bring it on back to crocodile pose and shimmy the hips. And what can you let go of? Tuck the toes. Lift the hips. Press the hands into the ground. And as if you're being lifted by your tailbone, pull up and back. Child's pose. Think about space in the low back. And then make your way up to your first down dog. So find your down dog. Find some movement, warming up your down dog, moving through whatever movement feels good in your down dog. And then find the stillness of down dog. Hold. Connect with your head below your heart. Lift the hips up out of the ground. Pull your body weight out of the wrist. Soften the face. And then bend both knees and get really strong in the low core. We're going to lift and hover the right toes with the right leg bent. Hold and hover, get really stable in your base. And then we're going to take knee circles with this right knee. Nice and slow and controlled. Reverse your circle. And then bring the right knee to meet the left. activate the entire right leg, and we're going to inhale as we open the right knee up to the side. Exhale as we squeeze it back towards the left. Inhale, open. Exhale, squeeze it in. Controlled. We're not flapping our leg in space. Find the muscles that make this movement happen. And then send the right leg to three-legged dog. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Lift up out of the ground. Bend the knee, bring the knee towards the right elbow. Hover, lift, and then bring the right heel towards the left elbow. Flying pigeon shape, so lifted pigeon. Bring the right heel back towards the right wrist and then step through low lunge. So find your blocks here. Move and breathe in your low lunge. So finding some movement here, whatever feels good. Bending, inhaling, exhaling, sending right leg towards straight. But start to take this movement really fluid and experimental. Having an internal experience, not worrying about perfect shapes, perfect alignments. Feeling your own muscles, finding your own holding patterns, finding the tension in your legs, finding the tension in your feet. And then find the stillness of a low lunge. Get really long in the spine and engaged in both legs. Fire up the legs like you're pulling the feet towards each other and lifting up, pulling up out of the joints. Take a deep inhale and rise on up, high lunge. Hold and lengthen. Find a really strong base. Inhale, straighten up the legs, reach really tall. Exhale, open the arms and send the left knee way down towards the ground. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, open. Slow and with as much control as you can, connecting with the muscles that make this movement happen. Lift and lengthen. Bring it back down to regular high lunge and bring your hands to heart space. Connect with the legs. Connect with your center. Connect with your breath. And then bring the weight onto the front leg and maybe begin to pop up through warrior three. And then step forward, left foot underneath the hip. Hold here in your mountain pose. Breathe and hold. Feel your feet. Lift your toes. Start to move around on your feet, changing the weight around on your feet. We're going to move into the back of the legs and into the muscles of the feet. Find your mountain pose. So find your feet underneath your hips, comfortable underneath your hips. Little soft bend in the knees. Engagement in the core to keep you nice and stable. We're going to start to move through the feet. So lifting one heel at a time, nice and slow. Pedaling through the feet, finding the muscles of the legs. Maybe you can start to lift and pedal. As you lift and lower one, you're lifting the other. As you lower one, you're lifting the other. So starting to pedal and experience a little balance. Arms can be out shoulder height. They can be out to the side to assist. They can be at your hips. Keeping an eye on your hips, keeping your hips even. Moving through the feet. And then come on up to the balls of the feet. The feet do not have to be lifted really high. Just lift the heels a little. Activate the feet. Find the place where you can hold your balance nice and strong. Maybe it's up high, maybe it's just slightly lifted. Hold and hover. Hands out shoulder height to help you balance. We're going to lengthen our spine, engage the core, and slowly lower the hips down towards the ground as slow as you can. Hold and hover wherever your heels are. Hold and hover. See if you can challenge your balance. Engage the feet and legs as if you're trying to pull the knees apart without letting them move. So that fires up the outside and the inside of the leg. Breathe and balance. And then come on back to mountain pose, and we're going to connect with our breath. Inhale up. Exhale, prayer to heart. Inhale up. Exhale, prayer to heart. Find your prayer heart center and pause. Check in. See how you're feeling. Release any gripping in your toes, your face, your shoulders, your low back. Breathe. Keeping an eye on the hips. So our hips tend to go left and right when we're trying to balance. So keeping an eye on the hips. And try and keep them nice and centered. That's not right or wrong. It is just finding the challenge. So finding the challenge of strength. Lower the hips a little with the knees bent, engaged. Core, engaged legs. So find that challenge of feeling like you're pulling your feet and your knees apart without letting them move. Fire up the outside legs, the inside legs. Hold. Hold here. Trying not to move the hips too much. See if you can bring the right leg out ahead of you. So trying to adjust the weight onto the left. Bring the right leg out ahead of you. Long. Point the toes. Hold. And then our challenge is to lift the right leg without moving the hips too much. See if you can hold strength in the lower core. Hold the leg. Bring the hands to prayer. Keep them on your hips. Options always find your own balance challenge. Slowly lower the right foot down and move straight onto the left. So point the toes first. Land on the right leg and then lift the leg. Hold and hover. Breathe. Option to do the exact same thing or lift both heels. See if you can do the same thing with the heel lifted. So weight onto the left, point the right toes, and see if you can challenge your balance even further. Breathe and hold. Lower the right foot and straight onto the left. Point the toes. Lift the foot. Challenge your balance. Breathe. I've lost it. And then bring it down. Tap out the feet. Tap out the legs. What can you let go of? Really, really tap them out. And then land in mountain and connect with the breath. Inhale up. Exhale, heart to heart. Inhale up. Exhale. Bring your prayer to heart and hold. Connect in with your feet and legs and your base. And this time we're going to inhale up and swan dive it down. Touch the ground. Step back, high plank. Hold a high plank. Breathe and lengthen through the spine. So get long from the heels through the crown of the head. Hold. And then lower the knees. Send the hips back. Child's pose. Breathe and release. Come on back to a down dog. Connect with your breath, connect with your base, and then bending into both knees. Hold and hover the left leg bent. So knees stay even, heel comes towards glute. Hold and hover. And then take some knee circles with this left leg. Really thinking about space in the hip. Moving around, trying to keep the rest of your base solid. And then move in the opposite direction. And then bring the left knee to meet the right. Activate the left leg. Inhale as we open the knee to the left. Exhale as we squeeze it back towards the right. Inhale. Exhale. Strong in your base. Take the tension out of the face. And then lengthen the left leg to three-legged dog. And lift up out of the ground. And then bring the left knee towards the left elbow. Hold and hover. And then take the left heel towards the right elbow. Hold and hover. Breathe, lengthen. Heel back towards the right, left, and step through low lunge. Find some movement. Inhaling forward, exhaling, leg towards straight in the left. So really having that internal movement experience. See, I move my hips, I move my feet. I find my own holding patterns. A lot of my holding patterns are in the inner thighs. So I move around, start to feel those muscles. Moving with the breath. Inhale, exhale. And then bring the weight onto the left leg. Get solid in your low lunge. Lift up off that left thigh. Lengthen in the spine. Engage the core. Breathe. And then deep inhales, we rise all the way up to a high lunge. Lengthen. Hold a strong, steady base. Find a strong, steady base. And then inhale as we straighten our legs, lift our arms, lift up. Exhale as we open and lower the back knee as low as we can. Inhale up. Exhale low. So low as we can while retaining some principles. So as we lower, we're strong around all of the joints. We're not floppy or buckling in any joints. Our core is strong and our muscles are entirely engaged the whole time. We're trying to have a muscle experience. We're not trying to push into overly relaxed joints. Trying to find the muscles of the legs. Inhale as we lengthen, exhale as we lower. And then find regular high lunge and bring your hands to prayer heart space. Breathe. Bring the weight onto the left leg. Practice slowly popping up through Warrior 3 before bringing the right leg into Mountain Pose. Find your Mountain Pose and connect with the breath. Inhale up. Exhale, heart to heart. Bring your prayer to heart and hold Mountain Pose. Release the gripping around the toes, around the knees, around the low back. Soften the face and shoulders. And then if you have a block or something you're using in place of a block, bring it and place it beside the left foot. So I don't know which is easiest for you to see. Maybe I'll go this way. So we're going to bring it in front of the left foot. We're going to place the ball of the left foot onto the block. We're going to start watching this right knee, so not locking the knee on the right side. We're going to start to just pulse the heel down nice and slow. Lift the heel up and pulse it down, feeling the back of the left leg. Not keeping a goal in mind, but just connecting with the back of the leg. Lifting the heel, finding the muscles in the leg, lowering the heel, finding the muscles in the leg. If you are starting to get the hang of this and you trust your balance, we worked on our balance just earlier, you're going to start to pulse. So as you lower the heel, come out onto the ball of the right foot, and then lower and lift the left foot. Lower the right, lift the left. So pulsing through, working through the legs, nice and slow and controlled. Arms can be out to help you balance, out in front, out shoulder height. You can stay at your hips to keep your hips, reminding your hips to be stable. And at any point, you need to lower it back down and just work through the back of the leg. Go ahead. And then switch the block so the right foot is going to be on the block. Ball of the right foot and start slow. Get stable first. So little bend in the left leg, starting to work through the back of the right. Lower the heel, lift the heel. Lower the heel, connecting with all the muscles in the back of the leg that make this movement happen. So the difference between yoga and a fitness class is the connection, the mind-body connection, trying to have that internal experience of what is going on in your body. When I lift my heel, are there compensation patterns? Do I feel like this is a movement I don't like? Does it stir emotions? When I lower my heel, we're constantly having that internal inquiry. Maybe begin to lift up onto the ball of the left foot as you lower the right heel, pulse it up, lift the right, lower the left. Only if you can feel very strong in both feet and very balanced. Watch for any buckling in joints. Buckling in joints tells you that your muscles are not ready for this movement. So back off and start to build muscle strength in a slightly less strenuous version. And then bring your feet about mat width apart. Start to move in to coming forward with the torso. So get really long with the torso, don't lock the knees. Engage the feet. So we want to feel like the feet are pulling the mat apart. So this is my feet just landing on the ground, no muscle engagement. This is my feet feeling like they're pulling the mat apart without letting them move. Muscles are engaged. Torso long, come forward. Just a little bit. And then take the hips side to side, really slow and with control. Finding the muscles that make this movement happen. It's a small, tiny, controlled movement. Breathe. Bring it back to center and begin to pulse the heel. So releve, lifting one heel at a time, bending the knee, and then back, other side. So this time, trying to keep the hips stable and the movement below the hips. And then maybe you can begin to lift both heels and hold and hover long in the torso. Arms can be used to assist balance. Hold, Strengthen. See if you can still feel like you're pulling the mat apart with your feet, so both sides of the legs are engaged. And then lower the heels. Bring the torso up and tap out the legs. So that little tap, the wiggle of the muscles is important. Encourages a little reset, those little somatic movements, waves in our muscles. May look silly, may feel silly, but it does serve a purpose. So inhale up, connect with your breath. Exhale, heart to heart. Inhale up. For our challenge today, feel free to move so that you have a chair or a wall for extra balance. So we just did a balance sequence. We're going to try and pump that up just a little. So if you need balance, if you need a wall, find your wall, find your chair, find anything to hold on to. Start to engage the legs. So feet are feeling like they're pulling the mat apart. Legs feel like they're pulling apart without letting the knees move. Bend the knees. Sink the hips a little lower. Engage the lower core. Hands can be out to help you balance, out to the side, or on the hips to keep an eye on the hips. I like to keep an eye on my hips because my hips move around all over the place and I never really know they are unless I keep my hands there. So hold and engage. And then either staying here or if you can, lift the heels. Knees bent. Hold. Try to keep that same engagement in the legs. So all of the muscles are engaged in the legs. Oop, find your balance. Right leg comes forward. Point the toes. Find your balance first. Hold the right leg up and then lower the hips even more. See if you can do it without dropping the heel. Lower, lower, lower. See how low you can go. Bring it up slow. Tap it out. Begin to set up for the other side, engaging the legs, feeling that engagement of pulling the legs apart without letting them move. So all of the leg muscle is engaged. Lower the hips. Find your balance point, engage the lower core. Maybe lift the heels. Left foot comes out, pointed. Find your balance first. And then lift. And then send the hips down. Challenge your balance. Woo. Hold, breathe, challenge. Notice if one side's harder than the other. This is my harder side. To lower the heel. And then bring it down. Tap it up. Falling over is part of it. You get stronger by wobbling and learning where your muscles are strong and where they're weak. Land your feet and take your hands left and right, as if cleaning out your space. Letting go. Letting your hands tap left to right. And then bring it back to mountain pose and connect with the breath. Inhale up. Exhale, heart to heart. Bring it to mountain pose, pause and hold. Meditation to close the eyes and tune in to all the little micro adjustments that happen in the body when when you stand on your own 2 feet. And then bring our arms up overhead. Inhale, swan dive down to touch the ground. Step back, high plank. Lower the knees and straight to child's pose. What can you let go of? Catch your breath. Return to your mat. Return to what's going on in the physical body. We're going to work the shoulders just a little. Lots of options for the next session. So if you have your block and you want to just stay on your knees, maybe something underneath your knees if you have sensitive knees, holding this with your blocks, lifting. So this is me just hanging out my shoulder joints. This is me engaged through my shoulders and chest and arms, lifting up out of the ground and not sinking into my wrists, sinking into my shoulders. Engaging and starting to practice that. That should already feel like work. If you're feeling superhuman and you're not tired enough yet, you're going to take this all the way to plank. So plank position. Try not to lock the knees, getting long from the heels to the crown of the head. Engage the shoulders. And then we're going to shift the weight to the right side. Lift the left arm. Take a big circle. Slow, controlled. Bring it back. Lift the right arm. Take a big circle. Slow and controlled. Everything engaged. Shoulders engaged. Lifting, opening, strengthening, especially across the standing shoulder. Again, you can do this with the knees lowered. You can do this with your hands just on the ground, not on the blocks. Take options for yourself. Make this your own practice. Listen to the messages your body is sending you. You make more progress by tuning in and listening than to forcing yourself to somebody else's physical ideals. Bring it back through center. Lower the knees if they're lifted and send the hips back. Child's pose. Invitation to leave the hands on the blocks here. So just a little engagement through the arms. Imagining getting longer through the arms. Take the tension out of the head, out of the neck. And then coming on up to a seated position. We're going to bring our feet to the ground, knees up, and take our hands behind us. Fingertips can point wherever wrists are most comfortable. We're connecting with the back of the upper arms. So, engage the lower body to get strong so you're not rolling over onto your sacrum. You're engaged, you're long in the spine. We are going to bend the elbows and start to engage the upper arms. So take a little weight into the upper arms. Maybe feel like you're drawing the shoulders to the elbows towards each other. Engage. Little pulses here. Small pulses. Moving through the arm, not rolling over the sacrum. So moving through the arms, engaging the torso a little. Just keep the spine nice and stable. And then bend and hold, engage. Adjust the hands a little. Take a little bit different shape, engage. And then lift and hover the hips to whichever position you can hold strong. So maybe you just lift a little. Squeezing the core to lift the hips, squeezing the arms to hold this position. Maybe you can lift all the way up. Hold. Engage the feet and legs entirely. Pull the toes towards the shin. Feel like the feet are pulling apart from each other, so engage the whole leg. Try to keep the tension out of the neck. Squeeze the core, breathe and hover. And then slowly lower the hips. Bring the torso up to a seated position. And take wrist circles. Nice and slow. Slow, controlled. Feeling every part of the circle that your hand can move in and then back the other way. So feeling this movement. Take your fingertips, point them towards you, and then press the backs of your hands onto the ground. Open up the back of the wrists. Maybe more comfortable to use your block for this next position. We're going to bring our hands to either the blocks or the ground, watching our lower back. So find the position that your lower back is comfortable. We're going to press our hands down and then lift just our index fingers. So engaging the hands, lifting just the index fingers. Bring that down, lift just the middle fingers. Bring that down, ring fingers. Bring that down, index fingers. Pushing everything else actively down into the ground, lift the thumbs. And then turn the fingertips towards each other and the same thing, just index fingers while everything else pushes down. Ring fingers, index fingers. Middle fingers, ring fingers, little fingers, and thumbs. And then let that go. Turn the fingertips towards you, palms down, and then just land on the ground or the block. Gently stretch into the wrists. Maybe take this static or take little pulses, feeling the back, the wrists, the inside side of the wrist, sorry. And then back to very slow wrist circles. Other way. Adjust your seat if you need to, switch legs. Find a seat that's comfortable for you. We're going to look at our hands. We're going to bend at the elbows and we're going to bring our fingertips down towards the ground. And then we're going to pull the hands in towards center and back. Nice and slow. Center and back. And the hand shape is kind of like a little U shape. So pulling towards center and back. Trying to make this movement as much as possible from the wrist down rather than in the forearm. And then think about pulling them out to the outside as much as possible. Take little pulses here. Little pulses with their hands, pointing out. Noticing which muscles fire up in the wrists and the forearms. Feeling your hands. And then soften and shake. Let go. I can't shake with my left hand because I have an injury. So soften, shake. Imagine you're throwing glitter with your fingers. Spread it out, loosen the arm and shoulder. And then come on down to your back. So making your way down onto your back, landing on the mat. Take some time to land on your back. Bring your knees in, give yourself a little hug, maybe rock it. Take your feet up to the ceiling and just experience your feet above your heart. So knees can be bent, feet can be soft. Just starting to let the blood flow back down from the ankles to the heart with ease, helping gravity support us. Take any wiggles and movements through the legs and the feet. Feel good. So we work the legs and feet pretty hard. So just kind of noticing how they feel, maybe how they feel different to when we started. Maybe taking a little self-massage, feeling the leg muscles, feeling the thighs, feeling the feet, taking ankle circles, whatever feels good, just having feet above heart. And if you can hold this as a restorative position, maybe you put your feet up on a chair, maybe you land your feet on a wall. Just make sure that when you do it, you're not trying to force a stretch. So there is a stretch position where we push our heels up onto the wall and we're trying to lengthen the back of the legs, lengthen the lower back. Mindful that that's not where you're taking. We're looking for a resting pose. This is different. So if you can hold your feet up on the wall with a soft bend in your knees without any agitation in the lower back or the back of the legs, go ahead and do that. If not, maybe placing your feet onto a chair with the knees bent so that the low back can be absolutely soft, the back of the legs can be absolutely soft, but the feet are still above the heart, aiding and bringing the blood back to your heart. If you cannot be comfortable in either of these positions, move into the most comfortable resting position you can possibly get into. I'm going to talk you through letting go. So all the work is done. Notice what is different. Notice what is different from the start of practice. Notice how you feel. Notice how you feel emotionally, energetically. Notice muscles that might be talking. And start to become present in the physical body, beginning to notice any gripping or holding patterns, tightness. And as if you could tell each and every muscle one by one that all the work is done, that they can soften and take a break and let go. Check in with all the tiny muscles of the face and soften the muscles of the face. Let any gripping around the neck and shoulders soften. Let the shoulders be supported. Let the head be supported. And then soften any gripping around the breath and allow the breath to just roll in and roll out, as if it were the waves of the ocean, rolling in, rolling out, without intentional force. Noticing if any gripping or any kind of tension returns to the body when you begin to focus on the breath. Whenever we say notice, whenever we bring our attention to something, let go of that concept of this is a right or wrong. Even when we're talking about breath, there are practices that we force the breath and there are practices where we soften and observe the breath. There are no right or wrongs. We're just noticing. noticing what goes on in our own bodies. We all have different holding patterns. We all have different experiences. So just notice. Try to let go of the, oh, I noticed that. What have I done wrong? What should I be doing instead? But just having an internal experience and getting to know what goes on in your own physical body, in your own mental body, in your own emotional body. Noticing perhaps those responses and getting to know a little bit of that inner critic or that fear that talks within you. And it's not that we get to know them so that we can avoid them. It's that we get to know them so that we can hold space for them. Accept that they are there and part of our story. And our fear and our ego and our worries, they all want their 15 minutes of fame. And sometimes just acknowledging their presence and allowing them the space to be as they are can allow us to be less entangled in the web of fighting with these emotions or thoughts. So finding that center point in the mind, as if you could land your awareness right on the tip of the spinal cord, right in the very center of the brain. And allow presence for whatever is present here. Giving it space, giving it compassion and awareness, and just observing without judgment. Letting the thoughts fly and flutter. Notice that you can notice your own thoughts. And then perhaps take a few moments to contemplate, who is it that can notice the thoughts? If I can notice my thoughts, perhaps I am something a little more than just my thoughts. If you need to wrap up in a certain amount of time, if you only have 60 minutes today, begin to bring your awareness back to the room. If you have the time, please take the time in a resting pose. To take as much time as your body needs. A resting pose is probably the hardest pose in yoga. The one that we fight the most, but also the one that gives the most benefits. So with these recorded online classes, we tend not to leave you there too long so that you have the option to turn it off and take longer if you need it. Otherwise, you have a 60-minute practice with a short resting pose. I can finish up in 60 minutes, but do take the time if you have it. Get to know yourself in your resting pose, giving yourself permission to be with yourself, to turn off the rush, take a break from the hum of the outside world, and really be with yourself and get to know what's going on with you. Begin to roll on over to a fetal position if you're finishing up with us. You take the time in a fetal position to connect with the bliss center, connect with that spark of life within, as if peeling back all the layers and looking deep within that little energetic soft source, as if you're connecting to recharge. And then come on up to a seated position, hands of prayer at heart space. And connecting to the concept of bringing our left and right sides to meet in front of our heart, as if accepting ourselves as whole and complete, precisely as we are. And thinking a little about what that might mean. What is whole and complete? When we go through life and we suffer disappointments or traumas, we often sever a part of ourselves, or when we experience shame over something we did, we often sever a part of ourselves and say, that is not what I want to think of. That is the negative side. And this is the positive, glowing light, wonderful side that I only want to be. So the practice of yoga is getting to know yourself and all of the parts of yourself, all of the mistakes and all of the triumphs, and starting to recognize them as all part of your story without judgment. Trying not to shove one part aside, to lift one side higher, but being centered and accepting the whole. May we all know a little wholeness, a little compassion, and may we all experience some kindness and community. Thanks for joining us.